Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milicis, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hello and welcome to this week's Joy of Business Radio show. You're here with me, Melanie Mead, JCF, my official title, Joy of Business Certified Facilitator, and I'm here with a fellow JCF, a fellow Irish person, a fellow colleague, is Mr. Paul Kearney. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Melanie, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. We're joining forces today because we're going to talk about something that we actually both get asked a lot about. And I came up with a really dorky name for it because I was just kind of messing around. But you and I both have different kinds of jobs. We do different things. And this is a place where we seem to come together and have similar points of information. And then also we have our own special area of expertise on it. It's LinkedIn. And I was going to call it by the power of LinkedIn, because there's always this new latest thing that everyone seems to want to get involved in and play with and see how it can actually, generally speaking, help their businesses. And I do get too that there's a bigger picture at play here. And you've been quite successful on LinkedIn, haven't you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn started initially as a way to get jobs. So it was it was linking people directly with employers, so that it was it formed a web, so that you could have your direct contacts, and then you could have friends of friends, and then you could have friends of friends of friends, and it was quite successful.
But it also
at that.
Kind of
and
started
that,
out. Yeah, I was going to say it was kind of uncool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I suppose it's grown as a platform, and it's become. It's grown and evolved, no doubt about it. And initially at the start, it was a link-up point where it was to get jobs, to promote yourself. So you a lot of times people's profiles were just their whole CV. So you knew when somebody was looking for a new job because they went onto LinkedIn and they updated their CV. So they weren't happy in their old workplace. So people used to always say, "Oh, he's moving on," or "She's moving on," and that's changed quite a lot now. Now it's become more an information sharing point for business predominantly, but also you see more charities involved with it. You see more non-profit organizations involved with it. You see more individuals involved with it. So it's a real sharing point, and it's literally what the World Wide Web is. It's a web of contacts and networks, and you can build a lot of contacts through it, which are very powerful.
So there's a couple of things here. LinkedIn originally was that place where you go to find a job. And so now you're saying, which would largely be business orientated and an individual looking to seek a job, but you're saying now charities and individuals are kind of playing on this platform too. What's the supposed win here for these people if you're going on, say, onto a platform that would have initially have been predominantly to find work and to make business connections for your business, very business cardy, handshakey style attitude towards it. What's the win now for these guys jumping on LinkedIn? What's the interest? What are they looking to create there?
Well, there's a couple of things with LinkedIn. I suppose one is the interconnectedness of it, that you can see whose people's contacts are. You can reach out to them. You can become friends with them, and then they become part of your contact network. And some people use it very smartly. And the thing that I like about LinkedIn is it's quite flexible. it's very the main win is that you can get your message out there, whatever it may be. So if you're a great business, you can get your business out there. If you're doing great things, you can get that out there, and also let people know, okay, here's what I'm doing, here's how I deliver it, and it's a shop front for your business. That wasn't the case a couple of years ago. It was more, it was a shop front for individual people. So that has changed, and has changed quite a bit. So what you're seeing now is that people can utilize it for their business. They can utilize it for them in terms of if they want to get a message out there, if they have a certain campaign that they want to run. And it's quite a flexible platform. There's certain rules that you should abide by, I believe, but other than that, there is quite a lot of flexibility there. And by and large, the people who are on it are they're business orientated, they're action orientated, they want to move quickly. So if they're reaching out to you, they're reaching out to you for a reason. It's maybe not as frenzy as Facebook, so it's kind of or Instagram. It's kind of a different kind of level, but still the interaction is very strong, and particularly if you've got a strong product or a strong service, it's a brilliant way to get your word out there.
Yeah, and you just actually kind of started answering the question I was going to ask you next. Like Instagram and Facebook, like a lot of people do use it personally. They also use it for business, and some people that are like, say, coaches or whatever, they use it in sometimes in a personal manner, let's say, to get their message out as well. I know you said LinkedIn's not very friendly or whatever, you know, as opposed to the other platforms. But what are the other distinctive differences of LinkedIn from that perspective, like from, you know, between Instagram, Facebook, you know, and LinkedIn? What is the difference or the benefit of using LinkedIn? What are you looking at to create there as opposed to like Instagram, where there's millions of people on every day, you know, shopping, buying stuff, checking out the latest, you know, sometimes it's a life hack, it's a business too, it's the latest pair of shoes or whatever. Facebook wouldn't be much different. Facebook is quite flooded right now. So what's the thing with LinkedIn that's actually captured people's attention right now that makes them want to go there to start, you know, spreading their message?
Well, I suppose predominantly before LinkedIn had been used by business managers and business owners to, like, you might meet somebody and then you check out their profile on LinkedIn and you say, oh, I didn't know they did that, I didn't know they did that. And it was a way of linking in with different people. So exactly as the title say, LinkedIn. That has changed, and it's personal versus business. And I suppose let's say Facebook, Instagram, Twitter to an extent, they're used very much in personal applications. So my personal opinion is this, or my personal opinion is that. There's far more business done on LinkedIn, and also that the recruitment element is still very strong in LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a finance director, you can search for a finance director, and that's one of the brilliant search functions on LinkedIn, is that you can check second or third degree. So a friend of a friend, so you can link in and actually find out, okay, I know this person, or you can search an individual area, or you can search an individual like geographic area, or you can search a certain sector. And that then gives you a huge benefit. Let's say if you're running a conference, you can actually pinpoint people who may be interested in finance in the Chicago area and then reach out to them. And then it's being able to tailor your message so that it arrives and that it can be received, and that you're making it relevant to the person. Because as I was saying, a lot of the time they're busy people, they're running businesses, they're making things happen, they're changing the world, and it's kind of, they're not posting for the fun of it, they're posting because they're looking for a certain thing. So it's actually knowing, and usually the interactions are quite quick and quite fast. So yeah, you can use LinkedIn in various different ways.
And what are the no-nos? Like, what are if you're going to jump on LinkedIn, and other than, because we'll be coming up to an ad break in a few minutes, so it's not to get in too deep, but the general, for example, I don't know, throwing up a picture of your cat, or, food porn, like, you show your latest lunch or whatever. Like, what are the things on LinkedIn that, don't really fly so much?
Well, it's interesting mentioning throwing up a picture of your cat, because I know a person recently who threw up a picture of their dog, and it actually got a lot of engagement. And that's what I mean by LinkedIn is changing. It's becoming more personal on one level, but it's a more personable type of business, because people get that this corporate handshake, wherever it is very stiff and uptight, doesn't really work. Business has become more fluid, more flexible, more global, more changing. So in terms of the no-nos, like spam messages, just where you're spamming loads of people, doesn't work. Be personal, do the research, find out what they're interested in. If it's somebody you're looking to meet, reach out there. And then I think as well, keep it relevant in terms of business and what it's about, and what your message is to the people, whatever that may be. And then also not to overload LinkedIn. Like, I see some people who do an article every day, and for me it seems like overload, because I don't get that much engagement. Compared if they did one a week or twice a week, it might be more effective. And then another big thing that I find that people, they like action, so they like to see things that are happening. They like to see training events. They like to see work days. They like to see things that are actually happening. So it's like action-orientated photographs get more engagement, because it's like we did an event in Venice recently, and I shared a photograph of the venue, which is absolutely incredible. And it got a lot of engagement where people were like, wow, look at that. And it's like, it actually inspires people to look at something greater and say, wow, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. And it's opening up that possibility in their world.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because we actually, like, this is the first kind of quarter of the show, and we've touched on quite a lot of different parts and pieces of it already. And like, I do get too, with some people, it's overwhelming, like the social media overwhelming, and it's not a new platform, but a lot of people are starting to jump on it for the first time, and they're like it's kind of a buzzword, you know what I mean? It's a bit like Instagram. People are like, let's start an Instagram page, and you're like, hang on a second, let's maybe look at this here. Like, what are you looking to create? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, if you go to a fancy restaurant, or you go to like a McDonald's, or you know what I mean, or you go to a salad house, everywhere is different. It has a different menu. Some places have dress codes, or whatever you want to call it. But like, rather than just kind of running out there blindly, running into LinkedIn, and like, the one thing it's like a passion of mine is to kind of start simple. It's to streamline stuff. It's to look at, what you'd like to create, because otherwise, and see, I work in social media, so it's going to be normal that I'm on social media all the time. You know what I mean? It's a large part of my job. But for people like you who work in business, it shouldn't take over your life. It shouldn't be like this all-consuming thing to, get out there and get a result as such. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have other things going on. So it's really about like looking, you hear this buzzword LinkedIn, it's starting to take off. What do you do next? You know what I mean? So after the break, I think, Paul, if we just actually start looking at the basics, like setting it off and maybe what questions to ask to avoid that overwhelm, and actually see if LinkedIn's for you and how you can effectively use it maybe. Sound like a plan?
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
And welcome back. You're still here with me, Melanie Mead and Paul Kearney, and we're talking LinkedIn today. And before the break, we actually threw a lot of stuff out there, but now we're going to look at where a couple of things landed and actually see how to make this choice to get to the latest, trendiest business platform, which actually has been around for a while, but it has turned into something a bit cool where people suddenly sit up and pay attention. It's to LinkedIn. So, Paul, I was suggesting before the ad break there, even just, the real simple basics to remember what to look at when you're starting a LinkedIn account, from the basics on the website or on the platform to things to consider to whether it is for you and what you should, maybe kind of questions you should ask when you're actually going to use it. Again, one of the things with me is there's no need to make hard work out of stuff like this, and it's to get in there and play. And that for me is the first thing I'd always say to people. There's probably 2 or 3 things I'd always say at the start when you're looking at a platform, and one of them really is the willingness to be curious.
Yeah, totally. A willingness to be curious, and also, if you have a business, I suppose that's an important question. Do I have a business? So, because I hear exactly what you were saying earlier on in the conversation, where a lot of people are dealing with social media overwhelm, where they're actually not looking at their core business and providing a service or providing a product to their customers. It's more, oh my God, have I posted on Instagram? Have I posted on Facebook? Have I posted on Twitter? And it's it becomes a full-time job managing the whole social media aspect of it. And what happens is a lot of businesses lose focus then in terms of what their core business is, because if your core business is dog grooming, that's what you should be doing. And that's what brings the bucks in the door. That's what brings in the money. That's what makes the business turn. So looking at, number one, do I have a business? So if your answer to that is yes, because a lot of people do, then it's looking at, okay, what message do I want to get out? So what's kind of core to your business? So in terms of what are the values you live by? What are the things that are non-negotiable? What do you love about your business? What's the message that you want to get out into the world? And one of the things is being authentic, so being true to you and saying, okay, what's my business about? Because a lot of the time, a lot of the posts can be quite stuffy at times, they're kind of, oh, corporate, I had a chat about this, and we had this business meeting, blah, 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 blah. And it's it's not that engaging for people. So it's actually asking the question, what would be interesting for other people? So when you go into that question of what would...
1 second? Just because you've hit a really important point here that I just want to maybe look at the flip side of this too. Just before you go any further, you're on about stuffiness and that kind of top button tied style conversation. On the flip side, I see with social media as well, is where people use it literally as a platform to just say what they think. You know what I mean? You exactly said it. It's what message would you like to spread? And some people think it's a place where you can express your opinions. And I don't mean that in a liberating way. I mean in a really preachy kind of, matter of fact, telling the world this is how it is kind of way, which is another thing that really doesn't create more when you're looking to invite and, as you said, engage people into a different possibility. I think they'd be the two key words here we're looking at.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like the analogy they often use about social media. So if you're having a cocktail party, would you want to turn up to the party? And if there's people who are all preaching and giving out to you and saying their point of view is right, it's unlikely you're going to turn up to that party and have a good time. So it's looking at what's fun for you, what's like for you, what's true for you, and being that energy out there, because they're the ones that get the most engagement. And it could be a company that does something which is seen relatively mundane, but they're really passionate about it. They're really enthusiastic about it. They love what they do. And if your dog needs to be groomed, then it's really important that you get somebody who's passionate about it, because every service has a requirement, and whether that's valeting your car or whether that's getting auditing services to get your company audited, you want somebody who you can trust, and that is very important in LinkedIn. So trust, and also in terms of credibility. So like anything that you're putting out there, you just need to make sure that it's verifiable, that it's factual, that it's accurate, particularly if you're sharing somebody else's post, and just making sure that the information is accurate as well. I find LinkedIn quite helpful as well for looking at future trends. Like you get, like a recent one was where I was looking at Volvo, and like Volvo are looking at car sharing for urban areas, so that you have an option where one car can be shared between 5 or 6 houses, because a lot of the time the car will sit there all day and do no work, and only brings the kids to school and comes back in the evening time, and you're paying for that. So it's looking at what will work in terms of future trends, and like transport is one of the big ones. So it's interesting. And then obviously, let's say environment is a very big area, sustainability, and you see businesses now like and with Greta Thunberg and the movement that started there, like businesses are being forced to look at it like in a very honest way. Before they could kind of bluff it off, and now they have to actually really engage in it and look at it, and that's interesting to see as well. It's looking at what's hot as well. So what are interesting topics? Obviously, sustainability, future, AI, they're all buzzwords at present, but it's staying true to your core message in terms of this is what you do, this is what your business is, this is what you enjoy, and being that contribution. That's important.
Yeah, and I get too as well, like when you go in to set up your LinkedIn profile and when you go to post it and stuff, a lot of the time we're really trying really hard to get it right, or somebody will tell you, you should do this and you should do that, and there's always room for improvement. Social media is always moving and changing, and like I think one of the biggest killers in social media is if you think you've got it right and you keep it that way forever. So I think too it's the willingness to get it wrong. You know what I mean? Like the willingness to just be curious, get in there and be willing to change on a dime. But like not do it from the place of I'm wrong, everyone else is doing it this way and I should be doing it this way. It's actually really looking at, for example, something very simple like your profile picture. It's so much better if it's clear and people can see it, you know what I mean, rather than one that was taken at your friend's wedding, maybe 9 o'clock in the evening when the band is coming on or something, you know what I mean? Like there's certain nuances that are there's preferred practice, let's say, and then there's parts where you get in and you get curious, because as you were saying too, like LinkedIn's been an evolution, but it hasn't started as the most engaging social platform.
Yeah, and I think back to its roots. So the thing is, if you're looking for a job and you're going to have, like I had this with a lady recently who was looking for a job, and she wasn't having that much success. And I had a look at her LinkedIn profile. Like the photograph, you wouldn't even recognize it was her. It didn't give any info. Like she had a lot of good experience. She didn't have any background or any information on that in terms of what she'd done, in terms of achievements she had. Like so like if the person did the interview and said, wow, I was really impressed with that person, and then they went to LinkedIn, they're going to say, wow, there's absolutely no information here. I wouldn't even recognize her from her profile picture. It's like it's having having things lined up in terms of that they're congruent. So like congruent in terms of being consistent with the energy that you want to put out into the world. So like your profile picture versus your experience versus your job experience, like that, they should all kind of match up within reason. So like that, if you're somebody who's really innovative and wacky, and your company does crazy graphic design, then your profile picture can be crazy and wacky and all those things. But like if you're looking for a job as a financial director for a pretty steady London company, your image is going to be different, because people will be looking for different things, and you've got to see what you people require, and like you can follow that on directly then into your business. So like if you're going to pick a person to valet your car who looks completely crazy, you're kind of like, I'm not sure, do I want that person? And it's like, compared if you want somebody who's going to be a clown, it's like, yeah, it's like, I need somebody who's wacky, who's zany, who's out there. And it's kind of, it's looking at all aspects of it, like, so the information you have there, because people will study your profile. Like I've seen that where people have rang me, but they've actually gone through in detail, and they'll ask me questions about previous experience, travel experience, projects I've worked on, and it's like there's a lot of information there, and you can gather a lot of awareness just by studying somebody's profile, see what they've done, see where they've been, and it can be a lot of really valuable information.
Cool. And like time is flying, we're going to be coming up to another ad break soon, but like I think maybe especially after the break, very briefly, like without going into too much detail because it can get a little overwhelming, like where on your profile that these things can be placed, just really, really simply, I think would be really, really cool, because it gives people this the first step, you know what I mean, that first action point of getting in there to actually create something, you know, for themselves, so when people do go look, that, you know, you're really aware of, you know, those steps to take, the things that will, you know, I suppose when you go on somewhere, it has to be clean and easy for people. Like, you know, as you said, as much as people go in and study profiles, they do it because they want to keep studying it. They won't spend ages painting themselves to try to find the nugget of gold amongst, you know, something that's very scattered, unclear, and as you're saying, that isn't congruent with what's going on. So I think maybe after the break, for sure, I think it would be really cool to go have a quick look at that and kind of just give people a taste of maybe what they can do when they go on, because I think the first thing we always do is we go to overwhelm. Well, at the end of the day, usually there's a couple of simple steps that get us going, and once we have that confidence, we can really start looking at what really works for us, be it in LinkedIn or anywhere else. So maybe we pick up there, Paul, after the break, okay?
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the sun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it, or business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun. Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back. Paul and I are still talking about LinkedIn, and I'm going to quiz you, Paul, on just something just very basic without going into great detail on things like setting up your profile. Because personally, like, I work on a lot of different platforms. I know, what a lot of them do and things like that. And a part of my job too is to allow other people to come in and actually take over those platforms and me to have an overarching view. And to be fair, LinkedIn, it's different. You know what I mean? You kind of go in. I don't personally find it the easiest to navigate to start with and things like that. So maybe if you could just look at, if I started a LinkedIn account today, the first thing I would do would be set up a profile, yeah?
Yeah, so with LinkedIn, if you go back to the roots of LinkedIn, so where you have your, like, people used to literally just copy and paste their CV and put it up there, and that's what they did. It's like, so as we discussed earlier, so getting a clear photograph that is representative of you and what you want to be in the world, and then it's looking at what you want to put out there, but not to, and it's similar, like I've done work with people in relation to CV writing as well, and people underestimate so much what they've done in the past. So they forget, people a lot of the time think just here, just now. They don't think about the past. They don't think about the future. But if you go back into the past and all the things you've done, that you've achieved, that it's like people underestimate those things. And it could be something relatively small, but it's actually putting those things into it because it adds more to it. And it can be a link point where people are like, oh, I see you were involved with the Rotary Club. I was involved with the Rotary Club. Or I see you like walking dogs. I like walking dogs. And it's like, it's making it personable, it's making it amenable, and also that it gets across in terms of what area of business that you work in, projects that you've done, if you've done so local projects, if you've done national projects, if you've done international projects, what things have you done in your life that you consider major achievements? And there may be things, a lot of time people underestimate themselves. There's something that they've done to say, oh, that was only small, but it could actually be huge, and it's actually highlighting that. And also then, as a green belt in lean manufacturers, an example, people get, oh, this person kind of thinks this way, they're interested in efficiency, they're interested in world-class manufacture. So it's like looking and seeing what areas they're interested in, whether it's engineering or whether it's finance or whether it's arts, because like obviously if you're a creative, then it's going to be very important that you're innovative, that you're creative, that you can create, that you can go, and it's like looking at what skills are required. So it's important to get those energies across in your profile in terms of what you want, because if you're working as a consultant, you need to have that level of trust, and you also need to have that level of credibility out there as well, so that there's a congruency in terms of what you say with your actions, with what you put out there, and it's so that it all follows through, and it adds up so that it's continually adding to the experience for the person. Because oftentimes you can have people who can follow you for years, they're interested in the message, but they don't fully know what it's about, and it might be 2 or 3 years later that they actually contact you and say, hey, I've actually been following you for ages, I'd like to know more about this. And it's kind of like one of the interesting things with Access Consciousness is a lot of the stuff is weird and wacky, but it's actually becoming more mainstream now because people get it. It's like we can't keep treating the planet like we are. We can't keep treating people like we are. So it's actually being willing put it out there, and sometimes the world comes to meet you, so things change, and it's like people say, okay, I get you, I get what you're talking about now, more so. So it's knowing in terms of what you want to put out there, and also what's true to you, what's authentic to you, what's genuine to you, and what makes you excited and enthusiastic.
Yeah. And anything else to consider, like in the features and stuff of that profile page that you could totally use to your advantage? Because you have, like, you have your name, you have your title as such, and then you can talk about yourself. Then there's other areas, as you were saying, there's those places where you get to shine. That's where you get to share your experience, who your clients are or have been. You get to share bits about your background or your education or particular skills, or, if you've won any awards. Like there's actually a lot in there to play with.
Yeah, totally. And everything can link into LinkedIn. So like when you go to a business conference, as an example, and you take away 15 business cards, most people do nothing with their business cards, but actually take them home and drop them a quick email, say, hey, look, lovely to meet with you. And they make it back and say, hey, look, I'd like to meet for a cup of coffee or whatever it is. But then link in with LinkedIn, and it's a way to stay in contact as well, because it's quite easy to find people. And then you can also see, I see you're friends with Joe, whoever it is, and it's like that then becomes the link point where it's like, I found him really good and I require somebody to advise me on my mortgage, and it's like, cool, well, I found this guy excellent, and then you can move forward with it and go from there. So it's knowing in terms of how to utilize it, and to an extent to play around with it, just experiment, put things out there, see what works, because a lot of the time it's trusting you, so you know what's required, and it's just to go for it. A lot of the time what happens is people don't start, and if you don't start, you can't get going, and it's kind of, so just trust yourself and go, because the world is waiting for you to arrive, and it's just go for it.
Exactly, yeah. And then the other side of it too is that thing of like always staying in the question. It's not about being wrong or doing it wrong. You know what I mean? It's about getting in and getting curious. And like the one thing I always say to people with things like social media and stuff like that, it's when there's a new change, like people that work in social media don't get like an email notification from the platform saying, this is the change and this is how we do it. A lot of the time you have to get in and you have to get curious and you have to see what works. And platforms actually grow and evolve from the ways that users actually work features. And as you were saying too, like before it was far more straight-laced, but I'm sure somewhere along the line, as much as LinkedIn might have, implemented a couple of changes, it's the users that actually get to be a part of the change. One of the largest across the board with Facebook and Instagram and everything, the platform wants to show you what's relevant to you. They're not into wasting your time. So like if they can actually tell what you're interested in, what you like looking at. So there's this aim to please factor that comes into it as well. They want to make sure that it's of value to you, and when you go in, that you're getting the stuff that you're interested in, and they might make suggestions or show you things that might possibly be of interest to you based on the choices you've made in the past. So there is that aspect of pleasing the user, as well as actually getting in and trying to master their algorithms and how things work. And one of the biggest things, I don't even just find this with Instagram, I find it with like anything, is that when something new comes out, or when you finally hear something for the first time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure everyone's aware of moments in their life where, you might have been, I just say, on a meeting with this great idea, and everyone's like, whatever, they either can't hear it or they're not listening. And the next thing, some cool, trendy person, some latest, guru of whatever, says this revolutionary thing where people have been kind of talking about it for years, a bit like LinkedIn. It's been around for years, and now everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. And then what they start doing is they start listening really hard to what the experts are saying. You know what I mean? And this is the way it should be done. Like, I had a discussion with somebody earlier in the week. They were looking at creating something, and they were like, what if we did this and what if we did that? And it was all the latest ways of getting information, and I might have a different take on it. I thought, yes, in one sense it was a good idea, and I would move it in this direction. I would take this and I would go here with it then, and this is what I would be looking to create afterwards. And it's so funny because they came back maybe a day later. I was listening to a podcast and I realized they said that's the worst way to do it. And I was like, yeah, if you're taking it in this direction, but you can totally play with it. Do you know what I mean? Like that element of play really went to, you know, out the window because so-and-so is saying this is how it's done. And what you're really saying here is like, get the basics, have a look at what's going on. This is the general theme of what's happening, and get your hands dirty and figure it out. And, you know, for some people, they'll actually have people do it for them, but just get in there and just start, you know, figuring the whole thing out. You have the basics, you know, go play and connect, which is the next thing we're going to be talking about, I think, because you've totally used LinkedIn to your advantage in connecting with people and businesses and maybe reacquainting yourself with people that you met years ago and starting new business relationships too.
Yeah, and a lot of people are hiding out. Like they try and hide out and they try and keep their business small, and it's like it doesn't work. And like if you're doing hiding energy, it's like I see like a lot of older people don't even want to engage with social media, and I can get that. I understand it in terms of privacy, and I think there may be a certain aspect of wisdom in it, but also there is an aspect of hiding out. And it's like if you're hiding out, guess what? You're hiding from your customers because your customers can't find you. So there is an aspect of where you have to be willing to go for stuff. You have to be willing to step up and say, okay, I'm going to go for it and really put it out there. And the thing is, there is no wrong or right. It's just doing it. It's literally, life is not a spectator sport. You have to get involved. You have to go for it. You have to see, okay, what's required here, and being smart in terms of the content you put out there. But also, it's like, or whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever it may be, people build up these people and say, oh, they're absolute experts and I need to follow every word they say. And that's not what Gary's doing. It's not what anybody is doing. They're giving guidelines in terms of, okay, don't put loads of spam out there. Make sure that your content is valuable. Make sure that you're not really annoying people and that you're putting inappropriate stuff out there. And it's trusting yourself to play, exactly as you said earlier, to play with it and say, okay, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this. Okay. And it's being willing to try it, because the same as anything in business, it needs to be flexible, it needs to be fluid, and that leads to a level of movement, because if you get stuck in your point of view, it becomes stagnant and it doesn't move. So there always needs to be movement in business where you're willing to look at things from a different angle. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I see that so often where people buy some expert's point of view, and it's like let's say 10 years ago, the experts would have said, okay, you just copy your CV and you put it onto LinkedIn and then you put up a profile picture, job done, that's it. But as you said, things evolve, and they evolve through people doing things, but also it involves somebody doing things differently. Somebody puts up a picture of a dog and it gets massive engagement. Yeah. But the reason it was because it was her being her, and it was like she was being true to herself and what was fun for her. And like, it was actually, in a way, it was congruent with her business. And it's like looking at what's relevant, congruent. Yeah. So
yes, you hear the music. Okay, we actually have one more part of the show left. We need to do another one. Back in a sec.
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to the final part of this week's Joy of Business radio show, where Paul and I are talking about LinkedIn. And it's the questions we both get asked a lot in maybe different ways or whatever. And I think a lot of the time people are looking for the answer. And what we were saying there before the break is that level of curiosity and take it in a direction that works for you. A lot of the time people look at the likes and the comments, which are amazing, or, a common word you hear on a lot of platforms is going viral. And that's really cool. But the other part of it too is like, you're using it so, as you were saying too, with LinkedIn, for action to be taken. Now that could be people coming back, reading your articles or listening to, things like the radio show, podcasts, all these different kind of things. And there's another part too of that interpersonal connectedness, that communication, that, it could be a collaboration. It could be making sure you're giving somebody, the service that they know that you can provide for them or whatever. And that's the one thing, it's probably broad stroke, and you can elaborate here on the LinkedIn part too. It's like, social isn't this, like, it's not the answer to everything. It's an addition to your business. And it's like the front of house of a lot of stuff. It's where you actually get to show people what you're made of. But that's not where it ends, is it, Paul? Like, there's so much more. Once you use LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, there's so many more possibilities after that. That social media is just something we use to let people know that we're here and this is what we're creating and this is maybe our vision for the future, or, whatever it is that you're putting out there right now.
Yeah, and I get media has evolved. So before, you placed an advertisement in a newspaper and then there was a certain amount of people saw it and you got engagement from there. It was very hard to track it. It was very hard to verify it. Was it actually working? Was it not working? You were building brands, but you were building brands on the back of unreliable information. I suppose the beauty of Facebook and the beauty of LinkedIn and Instagram is that they give you a lot of accurate information in terms of the people you're looking at, their likelihood to buy, all that information. But I think there's a more core part to it almost in terms of being yourself. And it's like, it is, you can see people who are not being themselves, let's say, on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and it just creates this kind of wonky energy where it's like, it's not really them, and it's seeing what's consistent, what's congruent with who you are and who you truly are, and like it's knowing that, and that's what gets a lot of engagement. That's what gets a lot of excitement, because like, business still grows on word of mouth. Like 75% of books around the world are purchased by word of mouth. So the thing is, if you're willing to talk to people, engage with people, because a lot of people hide away in their sitting room and they say, oh, I'm going to grow a multi-million-pound business by sitting in my sitting room. It doesn't happen. You have to get out into the world and you have to make it happen. You have to talk to people. You have to be out there. You have to be engaged. And that was true 100 years ago. It's true now. I think it'll be true in 100 years. You still have to engage. And all this artificial intelligence, so AI, it's leading us through matrices where people are kind of getting lost in their own internal worlds. But you still have to be willing to engage with people. You still have to be willing to talk to people. You still have to be able to make things happen. And there is a bit of a fallacy out there that it's like, oh, you're going to develop a multi-million-pound business by sitting in your sitting room and you're going to sell one product on Facebook through Facebook ads and you're going to be a multi-millionaire. To an extent, that will happen with some people, but by and large, the ones who are successful are the ones who are out there and are engaged, and that's really important.
Because you've hit the nail on the head. Even if you never left your sitting room, the most common way to sell, you do use, some people use Facebook ads and getting stuff out there and getting people excited, but it's direct messaging. So if you're not if somebody's in America and I can't physically go shake their hand, they're messaging people, they're asking. Some people are kind of saying, hey, do you want a free 15-minute call? So you're still bringing that interpersonal skill back in, even if that person lives in the North Pole. You know what I mean? So I think what the internet has opened us up to meeting people. We might not physically stand on the same piece of ground as them or in the same coffee shop or the same office, but it's opening these other doors. But it's all about conversation. And the other thing too here is that people will look at it as in to be the most liked or the most popular, but sometimes it's actually not saying things people don't want to hear in a crude way, but just being really true to you and looking at what works for you, the message that you have. Because you could have 1 million people think, oh, Paul Kearney's awesome, he's brilliant, and they might do nothing about it. But you could have 100 people that thought the same, and 70 of them could be those people that will pay for your service, that will show up, that will engage with you, and also give you the information of what they're requiring. Because we're doing this radio show because people have asked us. People have asked us because they know that you've had success in LinkedIn. They know I work in social media. And we're saying, hey, look, we're going to have a conversation about this because people have been asking us. And that is through conversation, be it in person, through Skype or Facebook Messenger or Instagram direct messaging, whatever. And that's what we're creating next. You've been asked to do talks on sales and all these different kind of things. I've been asked to do ones on getting your business up and running on social media, getting it out there and stuff like that, because people are engaging with us because they see that we're creating something in the world, and they know that maybe we have a piece, maybe not the whole picture, and we definitely don't have the answer, but information that would be of value to them.
Yeah, and it's a willingness to ask the questions. So it's literally to go into question on everything. So what does your business want to be? What would you like to be? What does your ideal day look like? What's fun for you? What do you want to add to your life? It's like all those aspects, yeah, and it's willing to go into, but that then engages the conversation, because rather than telling people, you're asking, and asking is always better than telling. There is sometimes you have to tell people things, but by and large, it's asking the question, saying, okay, yeah, what's required here? What do we need to change? What can we do differently? And it's looking at all those aspects, and LinkedIn is just another platform that allows you to engage and to ask the questions that opens the door to different possibilities.
And I think too as well with the overwhelm, and if you really want to give it a go, is just get started. It's like maybe take those points that you were talking about during the show, and we can always elaborate on more in the future, let us know. But it's that thing where just get in and get started, because I do know that when people do start looking at maybe trying something new, it can look like rocket science. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, just get the basics in, have a look around, get a feel for what's going on, and then see what works for you. But don't let it become all-consuming, life-controlling. You know what I mean? And look at them as conversation starters. That where you kind of, picture yourself opening your front door, or as you were saying, a cocktail party, or you know what I mean? It's that in a different setting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's willing to be you out in the world, and it's just it's a different platform. Allows you to communicate, allows you to extend out to people, and be you, change the world. Yeah.
And we're coming to the end of the show here now as well, and things like podcasts and radio shows, people do use them to consume information and listen, and we're sharing what we're aware of and what we know, and you can take as much of it or as little of it away. Our desire is to contribute to you. And again, before the show ends, melaniemead.com and IamPaulKearney.com. You'll find us on social media. If you do have questions and the things you're interested in, let us know. This is what it's all about. You know what I mean? We can't please everyone. We can't do everything. But we're opening doors And it's a two-way thing. It's not we're opening a door for you to meet us and, you know, do our classes or take our advice, but it's that see where we can help each other out. It's that, you know, what's that word, Paul, that back and forth, that reciprocity or whatever it is of life. It's not a one-way street. You know, everyone gets to contribute to each other in some shape or form.
Yeah, and it's being engaged in life. It's being open to life. It's looking at life as an adventure and having fun with it. And it's like you can't get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's you just go for it. It's life is not a spectator sport. You got to get involved.
Exactly. And the other side of that too is you don't have to do it like everyone else, because a lot of the time we'll look at those reference points of how other people are doing it. And I know, like, I definitely do something very different to other people. But it's what I love to do is watch how other people do it and see what parts might possibly work for me, rather than judge myself into having to behave like everyone else. And I think that's really, really important, because that's either where people come across a bit wonky online, or you go into this massive level of self-judgment and you do nothing with it because you can't do it like everyone else. And it's like, it's just that willingness to play. Like, give yourself a break, you know, see what works. And I probably could start the show on this, but if the people you are looking to attract into your business aren't there, just have a look at whether it's worth investing your time. It totally can be. You might find a whole other section of people out there, but who are you talking to? Who would you like to have a conversation with? And go there, if it works for you. But that is one of the largest missing elements. Is I find it with Instagram as well, because a lot of people, you know, it's like the in place to be, but it's like, let's start an Instagram account. And I'm like, yeah, but what conversation are you looking to have, and who are we talking to? Because they might be down the street in the other coffee shop or whatever you want to call it. And it's so really being in the question and not jumping on the bandwagon and, you know, playing with it. You know, it's a two-way street. We get to shape the future of social media by the way we choose to interact as well.
Yeah, that's very valid. Yeah, I think it's being true to you is the way to go. So just go for it, have fun. And thanks, Melanie. I really enjoyed the show.
Talk soon. Bye.